Hello, yo, and welcome to this week's edition of Slade, the Buffyverse Revisited. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy J.
I'm your other host. I'm Ames J.
And this week, we will be jumping into Season 2, Episode 17, Passion.
Yes, jumping into like a soul from the ether into a Thessalan orb.
Thessalan Orbs. Oh, man, this fucking episode. Oh, buddy. Let me just tell you now, this fucking episode.
Is that
But,
is
yeah.
is that wait, just so I have a heads up before we get to the end. Is that a good this fucking episode or a bad this fucking episode?
It's more of a wow. Wow.
Okay.
So you take that for what it's worth. You'll discover my thoughts as we go along, I'm sure.
All right.
In the
All right.
meantime, why don't you fire up the grill and cook us up some of those juicy dates and
Well,
deets?
first,
Uh,
I would like to tell you that we received 2 thumbs up on our wardrobe uh, in for our coverage of episode 15 phases. I was wearing a Shira shirt, and I don't know what you were wearing, but our faithful fan Silver Siren commented 2 thumbs up for both of your shirts this week, guys. That's a great color for you, Jeremy. And there really aren't words necessary for the shirt James is wearing. I mean, Shira, enough said. She goes on to say that she loved how I was acting out how closely I'm watching every episode uh, or every scene, and how visibly proud of myself I was when I found something that you had missed in an episode.
yeah, I have no
Uh,
idea what I was wearing. I don't know.
no, it appears to be some sort of blue shirt of some sort. That's
Okay.
all I can tell is that it was a blue shirt.
Okay.
Um, but it's nice that we're finally being noticed for the fashion icons that we are.
Yes, it is. I mean, we put a lot. People don't understand how. I mean, we spend like 2 days chatting before recording to decide on
Right,
our wardrobe,
right,
and we've each hired makeup artists also,
hmm
and so it's nice to be recognized for the
right,
glamour icons that we
right.
really are.
Yep. This beard's not real. This beard's not
Right,
real. That's
right. That's
that's
penciled
that's
on.
prosthetics. That's
Yeah, that's penciled on.
prosthetics.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fake. That's the
yeah.
fake hair. But
hmm
it's on there so good
And I
because we're
actually have
shelling.
hair. I actually have hair down to my ass,
But
but
that's a
I
bald
wear
cap.
I wear the bald cap, right? So,
Right, right.
so
I mean, we're putting some dollars into the production quality of this show,
yeah,
and
it's not
it's
like we
it's
just sit down in our rooms and start the cameras and start recording. I mean, come on, guys.
right, right. No, this is high quality, big budget shit, and we're glad someone's finally noticing.
Yeah,
So
you'll
thank you.
notice that as the show goes along and its budget increases and its wardrobe improves, as does ours.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
exactly.
it's only
Um,
me as far as I know.
she also does mention that she got a kick out of uh, our comment about how at some point Xander ended up working as an intern for Tucker Carlson on Fox News.
Yes, yes. And he's currently under Tucker's desk right now.
He is. Yep. All right. So with that being said, how about if I
Well, thank you for the
serve
kind
us up
words. What's her username again?
Silver Siren?
Thank you for the kind words, Silver Siren. You, as always, are the only one who ever reaches out to us. You will go on our Hall of Fame someday.
Yep. Yep. Um all right. So with that, what were you saying, Jeremy? You want me to serve you up some tasty dates and deets?
Yes, the tastier the better. Little garlic, little extra butter.
Yes, I actually sautéed these this week in a garlic brown sugar butter.
Okay, okay, I'm down.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
taste these bitches.
So, as previously stated, we are reviewing Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 2, episode 17, the 29th episode of the series overall. Our episode title is Passion. Our episode director this week is Michael Gershman, and our episode credited writer is Ty King. Our original air date was February 24th, 1998 on the now defunct WB network. Our regular cast, as always, includes Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy, Nicholas Brendan as Xander, Charisma Carpenter as Cordelia, David Boreanaz as Angel, and Anthony Stewart Head as Giles. Our guest stars this week include Kristen Sutherland as Joyce, Robio Lamort as Jenny, James Marsters as Spike, Juliet Danny Strong as Jonathan, Richard Assard as the shopkeeper, and Richard Hoyt as the policeman. Our episode synopsis this week reads, Buffy believes her mother Joyce is Angel's next target after his terror campaign hits close to home. Meanwhile, Jenny attempts to repair her relationship with Giles.
Sorry, you froze up for a good 5 or 6 seconds there, and I didn't know what was going on. And then you started talking, and now your voice is completely off from your lips and everything.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
what's the last thing you heard?
No, I heard it. I think it all came through, I believe.
Oh,
but,
okay.
The screen froze, and there was silence there for about, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm now doing this solo.
All right.
You may continue.
What was the last thing you heard? Because I just finished the episode synopsis.
Yeah, no, I heard it all.
Oh, that's it. That's our episode synopsis. So.
All right. Well, why don't you drop kick us into the cold?
You don't have your episode synopsis?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Shut up. Mine is a little bit more succinct. It simply says, Angel steps up his torment of Buffy and her friends as Jenny searches for a way to restore his soul.
Okay.
And I would say that's pretty fucking accurate.
That is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
We open up at the Bronze, and Buffy and Xander are out on the dance floor as Angel's watching from across the room, and
who did you say was watching?
Angel.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
And he's in voiceover. He's kind of narrating to us the concept of passion, and Xander turns and looks in Angel's direction, but Angel's gone. And then we see Buffy and Willow and Xander and Cordelia leaving the Browns, and they unknowingly pass Angel, who's kind of miming an embrace with a victim. He's got his vamp face hidden in the neck of the girl as he drains her, and then drops her as soon as our quartet passes him by. And then we're back at the Summers house in Buffy's room, and she's getting ready for bed. And she looks out her window into the darkness, but she doesn't see anything. And she turns off her light and slides into bed, and we see that Angel's outside watching through her open blinds. And she drifts off to sleep, and at some point Angel comes into her room and brushes a lock of hair back from her face and sits on the bed next to her.
And none of this fucking wakes her up or even slightly disturbs her sleep. I'm like, what do you sleep like a fucking corpse?
And as his voiceover, kind of continues on his reflection of what passion is. And that's our cold open.
Yeah, that just really bothered. I don't know about you, but if I was laying in bed asleep and someone sat down on my bed and started touching my face, I'm waking up and punches are being thrown in the fucking dark,
Yeah.
Now,
probably.
I want to bring some attention to this whole spiel that he does, because he does it here at the beginning of the episode and then he finishes it off at the end of the episode.
Right.
This whole particular spiel was written by Joss, or he who shall not be named.
Right.
And it is utterly fucking ridiculous. It is just verbal diarrhea from beginning to end. It makes no sense and it's stupid. Yes. And I'm
Wow.
going to actually I'm going to read everything he said in this cold open in this spiel, and then I'm going to finish it off at the end when he finishes it off. And then I think everyone will agree with me that it's fucking dumb. So he starts by saying passion. It it or wait,
Here.
passion.
I passion. It
It
lies in
lives
all
in
of
all of
us.
us.
It lies
Sleep.
in all.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No. Sleeping, waiting, and though unwanted, unbidden, it will stir, open its jaws, and howl. It speaks to us, guides us. Passion rules us all, and we obey. What other choice do we have? What? What are you? It's like
Oh,
he lost his soul, and when he lost his soul, he became one of those annoying fuckers who thinks they're a philosopher that like did a couple of years in community college and philosophy class. And
I can already tell you and I do not agree on this episode at all.
no, this episode is fucking bonkers. This episode, I'm sorry, should have been called Peeping Tom Angels a Fucking Creep, is what this episode should. There is nothing in this episode about passion, nothing whatsoever. The only passion in this episode is how passionately I fucking hated it. But anyway, sorry. Uh, so we come back from what would have been our commercial during the cold, after the cold open. I'm sorry. And we're still in Buffy's house. We're in her bedroom. It's the next morning. And Buffy raises up, and there is an envelope on her pillow next to her. And she's like, "The fuck?" And she opens it up, and it's a drawing, a charcoal drawing. It appears to be, maybe it's pencil, of her as she slept during the night. And so she's like, "Yeah," and then she immediately burns her house down and leaves, because that's what I would do. Uh, no, we cut to the school library, and she's in there with Giles, Xander, and Cordy, and telling them about how Angel was in her room the night before. And they're all like, "Are you sure? I mean, how do you know? Like, are you?" She's like, "Motherfuckers, I'm sure. He was in my room. Yeah, believe me." So she wants Giles to find a spell or something to do away with this invitation, because as they say, once a vampire has been invited into your humble abode, um, they always have permission. Now, here's a question. I feel like as this series goes along and as Angel goes along, the show Angel, that's not the case. Like, people are just like, you're no longer invited and they can't come in anymore.
Um,
Because I know Kate does it with Angel in her apartment, and it's like, wait, but in this episode they have to find some kind of fucking ritual, like basically a spell. So I don't know. I guess we'll see as we go along, but I don't recall it being this difficult to uninvite a vampire. But anyway, so they're like, okay, yeah, we'll find something and take care of that. And as they're talking shop, Jonathan and a random girl walk in. And Xander's like, "Wow, do you not even know how to fucking knock?" And they're like, "Well, this is the library at school." And they're looking for a book, um, about who was it?
Stalin.
Stalin. Yeah, they're looking for a Stalin book. And Giles is like, "Oh yeah, third row, historical biographies." And they're like, "Okay, thanks." And they head there. And the gang kind of all look at each other and they're like, "Yeah, let's go elsewhere to finish this conversation." So they do.
I, I like. This is probably maybe the only like what the fuck thing, but I mean this happens in almost every episode. Like they're like, well, we can't talk in the library because there's people here now, so they go into the fucking school halls
Yeah, into the
and
hall where
continue their
everyone else is.
conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, what was the point of that?
Whereas they could have all just kind of shuffled off, like say over by his desk or something, and
Right,
just talked quieter.
right, like into his office.
Or
He's got his own fucking office right
yeah,
in there.
close the fucking door, Because then Jonathan and that girl step out and they're like, "Hey, where did you say?" And no one's there. And
Right.
they're like, so I'm like, "Wow, way to go, Giles. Way to earn your paycheck." So we cut walking through the halls, and they're talking about um Giles was basically talking about how Angel's stepping up his harassment, and he's like, it's classic strategy to throw one's opponent off their game. And Buffy's like, he told me that when he was obsessed with Drusilla, he started by killing her entire family. And Giles is like, yeah, all your family's fucking sunk, so you might as well just consider that a done deal. No, she's like, so what about my mom? I got to tell her something. How about the truth? And Giles is like, hell's nah, we're not doing the truth thing. And Buffy's like, well, I got to tell her something. And here's the thing, Giles' answer is, well, just ignore him. That's basically Giles' advice. Just ignore him and he'll go away. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, I'm sorry, Giles. You didn't hear the part where I said how he killed Drusilla's entire family. I don't think ignoring him's good, but that's where we leave it. Giles is just like, yeah, just ignore him. He'll go away. And I'm like, okay. And then we cut to Miss Calendar's classroom, and she's dismissing class, and she calls Willow over before Willow leaves, and she's like, hey, I'm going to be late tomorrow. Can you cover class for me till I get here? Of course, Willow's super stoked because she's like the ultimate teacher's pet, kind of thing. And so she's like, hell's to the yeah. And Giles and Buffy stop by at that point in the doorway there, wanting Willow, and they pretty much give the cold shoulder to Miss Calendar still. She's still on the shit list. And Buffy and Willow bail, but Giles kind of steps into the classroom and kind of fills her in on what's going on, that he's needing to come up with a spell or something to uninvite Angel from Buffy's house. And Miss Calendar provides him with a book, and she's like, here, maybe this will help. And she's like, I don't think this is one you have. And um, she asks about Buffy, like, how's Buffy doing? And Giles is like, well, how do you think? And then he punches her in the face, and Miss Calendar's like, oh, fuck you. And she stabs him in the throat. So he's like, well, how do you think, after what you've done and how shit's happened and Angel's lost his soul and all that. And she's like, I didn't know what would happen, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and I didn't know I'd fall in love with you. And Giles is like, oh, what? And it's like, awkward. So he's seeming to get over his anger pretty quick once she says she had fallen in love with him. And she wants to make it up to him, and blah, blah, blah. And he's pretty happy, but he's like, I understand, but I'm not the one you need to make it up to. Thanks for the book. And he leaves. And she's like, wow, dick. I just spilled my heart to you, and you're like, yeah, go fuck yourself. So she's not real happy with him. She's plotting his death as we speak. Then we cut to Buffet's house, and it's dinner time with Mom. And Buffet's being kind of quiet and not talking a lot. And what's wrong, James?
You, Buffet.
I have to come up with new names, So she's like, so what's wrong? And Buffy's basically like, well, you remember that guy Angel? And Mom's like, oh yeah, the college boy who was tutoring you in history or whatever. And she's like, yeah, we were also kind of dating, but now we aren't. And by the way, he's a stalker. So if you see him, do not let him in. Do not invite him in. Do not tell him anything. Just ignore him. Okay, thanks. And Mom's like, okay. So then we cut to that evening, and Buffy and Willow are on the phone together, and Willow says she agrees with Giles. Try not to let him get to you. And I'm like, what the fuck is with you people? He's a vampire. He is a 200-plus-year-old demon who is stalking her. I don't think turning the other cheek is gonna fucking help here. But far be it from me. Willow and Giles think she should just ignore him to death. And Willow's like, oh, he's just doing this to get you to do something stupid. And while Willow's saying all this on her phone, she's putting food in her fish tank. And Buffy's like, well, I just hope Giles can find a keep out spell soon, because this shit's creepy. And I'm like, yeah, if it were me, I would just fucking wait up all night till his bitch ass came crawling in my window, and I'd fucking stake him in the eyeball. That's what I would do. But Willow's like, yeah, I'm sure he will. Um, but until then, just keep happy thoughts. And then she trails off, and there's just silence. And Buffy's like, Willow, hello? And there is an envelope on Willow's bed. And she opens it and pulls out this little chain. And as she pulls out the chain, there's hooks. And on each hook is one of her fish out of her fish tank. And I'm like, so he came in there at some point and individually caught each of these little like goldfish sized fish, and like stabbed them into a hook and then put them into an envelope. Like, why not just knock the fish tank over or something? I don't know. It just seems like a lot of work to go to, but that's what he did. So then you realize, oh yeah, that's right. Willow had invited him into her house before, so now he's got a free pass in there too. So the very next scene is back at Buffy's house in her bedroom, and she and Willow are sitting there together in their pajamas, and Willow's like, "Thanks for having me over, especially on a school night." And Buffy's like, "Well, what choice did I have? You just fucking showed up, you psycho." And no, if you look behind them too in this scene, you'll see that they have this big thing of garlic hanging behind them, and
Yeah.
Willow's holding a steak. And anyway, they start talking about how Angel's like so different, and than what he was. And I was like, well, yeah, he did lose his fucking soul. That will probably change a person. And Willow's like, yeah, sort of, except you're still the only thing he thinks about. Except now he wants to eat your face. And Buffy's like, wow, thanks for putting that all into context for me. Uh, really makes the day go by a little better, Willow. Then we cut to the factory, and what the fuck is going on at the factory, James?
It's early that next morning, and Drusilla brings Spike a puppy to eat.
Yeah, literally.
He's of course in his wheelchair, and he throws a fit about being treated like a child. And at that point, Angel shows up and not kind of, he like teases and
Calls him Roller Boy.
yeah, and completely emasculates Spike and taunts
Basically
him,
insinuates that he's banging Drew.
Drusilla, and then Drusilla has a vision that an old enemy is seeking to destroy their happy home.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm thinking while he's insinuating that he's sleeping with Drusilla is I'm like, who the fuck would want to sleep with that psycho weirdo? But anyway, I digress.
Can I go on?
You may.
And then we cut to Jenny, who presumably before school arrives at a magic shop, and she asks the shop owner for an orb of Thessala, which is a spirit vault for rituals of the undead. And he reminds her that he has one, and he sells it to her. And reminds her that without a translation for the ritual of restoration, which has been lost for ages. The orb's useless for its intended purposes, and she tells him that she's working on a computer program to translate the Romanian language into English, and he asks what she wants it for, and she tells him she's gonna give a friend his soul back.
Yeah, which I can't wait to talk about this software a little bit later.
And so then we're at school, and Buffy and Willow show up, and they meet up with Xander, and Willow starts to head off to go sit in on Miss Calendar's class because she was going to be late, but she sees that Jenny's there, and she's disappointed that she arrived at time, that she's arriving on time, and Buffy excuses herself from Xander and rushes over to Miss Calendar, and
And I've got a clip of their conversation.
go for it.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Hey,
Hi. Is there something that... Did you want something?
look, I know you feel badly about what happened, and I just wanted to say, good. Keep it up.
Don't worry, I will.
Oh, wait. He misses you. He doesn't say anything to me, but I know he does. And I don't want him to be lonely. I don't want anyone to.
Buffy, you know that if I have a chance to make this
We're
up...
good here. Let's just save it.
So Buffy can hold a fucking grudge.
But I mean, I think she has every right to still be mad.
Well, I guess, but it's not like Miss Calendar actually caused any problems when you think about it.
No, that's true, but she could have been upfront about who she was and why she was there in the first place. And that may have gone a long way in preventing Angel from losing his soul.
I don't know about that. I really don't.
So they part ways, and
Jenny's like under her breath, "What a bitch."
and then we cut to inside the school, and Buffy finds Giles passing out flyers in the lounge area, and Cordelia kind of sneaks up behind her, and they're both pretty relieved to hear that he's found a relatively simple spell with common ingredients to revoke a vampire's invitation into a place he's been invited to. And then we cut to after school, and Buffy and Cordelia and Willow are all having performed the spell in Willow's room, at which point they find another charcoal drawing, this time of a sleeping Joyce.
Yeah, and as part of this ritual, they have to put crosses up and stuff, and Willow's putting one up in her room, and she has to hide it behind the curtain. She's like, if Ira Rosenberg, being her father, or discover his only daughter putting up crucifixes in her room. And I was like, I don't understand. What does that mean? No. Spoiler alert, Willow's Jewish, so. But
Which we already knew that.
Right, we did. Right.
And then we cut back to the Summers house, and Joyce is pulling into the driveway, and we see that Angel's standing in the front yard, and he approaches her when she gets out, and he's kind of going on about how he can't forget about Buffy, and Joyce has to talk to her for him, and how he can't live without her, and Joyce is just, trying to get away from him and get into the house, and he says, I haven't been able to sleep since the night we made love. And
Joyce is immediately like, you screwed my underage daughter, you're going to jail.
She was 17.
That's underage, isn't it?
I look it up. I bet you it's legal in California. I bet that's the legal age in California.
Okay. But
it is
okay.
in most it is in most states. The legal age of consent in most states is 17.
Wow, that's pretty fucked up. Okay.
And then she's just kind of staring up at him, and the door opens and she rushes inside, and he starts to come in after her, and he just kind of stops, like something stops him. And we see Buffy and Willow on the stairs, and Willow's chanting the final words of the reversal spell as Buffy says, "Sorry, Angel, change the locks," and slams the door in his face.
And he screams at the top of his lungs. He is so mad. And he just has one of those stalker crazy people fits right there on the porch. And that's the way the episode ends.
Yeah, end of the episode. We're done.
He can't fuck with him anymore because he can't get in.
So at that point, we cut back to the school, and it's still later that night, and Giles finds Jenny still in her classroom working on something, and she kind of quickly clears her computer screen before he can see what it is. She just says
she had a porn window pulled up, and when he walked in, she's like, Alt tab. Oh fuck.
Right.
What? Hi, where?
Right. It was really embarrassing because you could clearly see in the search box she had searched stodgy librarian porn.
Yep, in tweed.
Yeah. It was really awkward.
Yep.
And she tells him that her and Buffy had talked earlier that day, and Giles says, well, she is a meddlesome girl, and Jenny tells him that she has a little bit more work to do, but that she may have good news. And he tells her to come over to his place after she's finished working. And then what happens, Jeremy?
Well, before he can get out the door, the entire building erupts in fire. And they both burn to death while holding each other and crying. It's a really sad scene. I mean, really sad.
It is. It is.
But we get past it. No, we cut back to that magic shop, and being it's pretty late at night, the owner is closing up. He flips off the open sign and walks towards the back of the building. For some reason, he didn't lock the door, because then Drusilla simply opens the door and walks in. So he's locked up for the night, but didn't bother locking up the door. I mean, who would do that? Drew comes in carrying that fucking dog again, and he hears somebody come in and says, "Sorry, we're closed." And then he turns and sees her, and he gets scared. He clearly knows her, and he's like, "Well, what do you want?" And she's named the dog Sunshine, and she's like, "Sunshine heard you had a visitor. She wants to know what you and the mean teacher talked about." And
could we establish a rule right now where you no longer do accents?
Well, I mean, it's so annoying the way I hate the way she talks. So anyway, of course he's like, "Oh shit, I'm fucked." And then we cut. Here we go. We cut back to the school still that night, and Miss Callender's still at her computer and just clicking away on the old keyboard. And we get a little brief shot of her screen where she basically selects all and then hits enter, and all of this strange text goes into, and I quote, the name of this program is Translator Pro. For all your ancient dead language translation needs, just call Jenny at Translator Pro. And then bam, it just instantly fucking translates all that text, no problem. So she smiles and hits the print button. It starts printing, and then she also saves a copy to the old floppy disk, which most of our younger viewers will have no fucking idea what we're talking about. It was this thing that existed many eons ago, a way in which you would save things to carry to a computer.
Before the cloud was a thing.
Yeah, a little bit before that. So anyway, she's printing it
and SSDs, really.
Well, yeah, long before SSDs.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's printing it, and she's saved a hard copy to the floppy disk. And she looks back up at her screen, and you can see Angel sitting in her classroom, and she sees him. And she's like, "Oh fuck, the jig is up." And she's like, "How did you get in?" And he's like, "Well, I was invited. You know, the sign in front of the school. Formatia trans cesare educatarum." And she's like, "Enter all ye who seek knowledge." She's like, "Fuck, stupid sign." And he sees the orb, and he picks it up, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this is supposed to summon a person's soul from the ether and store it until it can be transferred." And then he just fucking wings it as hard as he can, like right past her head, and it smashes on the blackboard. And then he destroys her computer, of course. And it catches fire for some reason, the computer, which I found hilarious. It's literally catches on fire when he knocks it off the desk. And so then he picks up the printed pages and he puts those into the fire. So he's destroyed all means of quote unquote saving him or restoring his soul. And then he literally like grabs her kind of like by the face and just throws her like face first into the door. And she's like immediately has this big gash on her head. And she's like, "Oh fuck." And so she takes off, man. And I mean, she's booking it through the halls. And of course, every goddamn door she comes to is inconveniently locked. So she just continues running through the halls of the school, and he's just Michael Myers walking, but somehow staying up with her. And then they get to this one point where she's like fighting with this door, and then finally it opens, and she gets through it, and she gets it closed just in the nick of time, and then he's fighting with it, and she runs down the hall, and she comes up to this like a janitor's cart. And he finally gets to the door at that time, and he runs up to her, and she pushes the cart, and he runs face first right fucking into it like a klutz. And then she runs up these steps, and she looks over her shoulder, and then she turns back, and poof, there he is, just magically appeared in front of her. And now he's grabbed her, and he says, "Sorry, Jenny, this is where you get off." And I'm thinking he's going to bite her. No. He literally snaps her fucking neck, dude. Like from some Rambo movie. He just snaps her neck and drops her like a sack of shit. She just hits the floor like a dead fish. And I was like, wow, that was pretty unceremonious for a character who's been part of the show from like day one. And then he goes, I never get tired of that. And I'm like, well, we kind of all do. But anyway, kind of a cheesy death. I don't know. Anyway. We cut to Buffy's house, and Giles gets there, and Will lets him in, and he's like, "Well, how did it go?" And she's like, "Oh, the ritual went fine," and till Angel showed up and spilled the beans about the whole fuckity thing. And Giles is like, "Oh shit." He's like, "Well, maybe I should intervene on Buffy's behalf and say something like to her mother." And Willow's like, "Sure, like what?" And Giles has nothing. And Willow's like, "Okay." And she just opens the door and lets him out. And he's like, "Be sure to let her know I came." And he goes. And we cut up to Buffy's bedroom. And of course, mom is wigging out about the whole fuckity fuckity thing. And Buffy's like, well, yeah, and all that Latin chanting and herbs and stuff is just because Angel's really superstitious and that'll keep him away. And mom's like, was he the first? And she's like, wait, I don't even want to know. And then Buffy's like, we're like 13th. And mom's like, whoa. And Buffy's like, I get around. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. No. She's like, yes, and the only. And then she's like, were you safe? And Buffy's like, Mom. And she's like, you made a mistake, a huge mistake. And Buffy's like, yeah, don't you fucking think I know he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? And then Mom sits down next to her on the bed and she's like, well, I guess that was the talk. And Buffy's like, well, how did it go? And Mom's like, not very well, considering you're a big whore like me. But she's like, I don't know. That was my first. And then we cut to Giles gets to his apartment, to his front door. And if you recall, he had invited Ginny to meet him there. And when he walks up to the door, there's a rose stuck to the door. And he's like, oh, shit. So he takes the rose and goes in and pulls it out and smiles, smells the rose and smiles and walks on in. And there's some opera music playing. And he's like, hello, Ginny? And he walks in a little further and he sees a bottle of bubbly chilling in an ice bucket and a note that just says upstairs. And he's like, oh, shit. Wow, wow. So he immediately like fixes his hair and he's trying to get all primped up and everything. And by the way, did you notice the opera song that was playing in the background? Was it familiar to you?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
It's O Suave Funcelle from Le Boheme.
Yeah. Also, the song Callus was singing in the flashback of Mythos.
Yep.
Gentle Child. Anyway, I found it interesting. So no one else has a clue what the fuck we just said, but we do. So anyway, he takes his glasses off. He's got his hair all pimped up, and he's ready to roll. And as he walks up the stairs, and there's candles on each step burning, and more roses and stuff. And he gets up to the top and looks at the bed, and ba-dum-choom, there's Ginny laying on the bed, dead as fuck with a broke-ass neck. And he's just like, what? And the next thing we know, the cops are there, and they're hauling out Ginny's bloated corpse on a gurney. And and Giles is standing there spraying Lysol. He's like, ooh, damn. But he's like, did she shit herself? And they're like, well, that does happen when you die. He's like, okay, I need to change my sheets. But anyway, the cops want Giles to come with them to answer a few questions. And he's like, yeah, but I got to make a phone call first. And the cop fucking tackles him and starts beating him, just because that's what they do. But that ends that scene. But then we cut back to Buffy's house, and what's happening there, Ames J?
Well, Jeremy J. Angel's lurking outside of Buffy's house and continuing his voiceover monologue about passion, and the phone rings, and Buffy picks it up, and Angel watches as she hands the phone, or does she hand the phone to Willow, or does she set the phone down and then Willow picks it up?
I mean, she answers it and hears what's being said, and then she hands it to Willow and just slides down the wall.
Yeah, so she answers the phone, and a couple of seconds after being on it, she hands Willow the phone and leans up against the wall and slinks to the floor, and Angel watches Willow on the phone, and she bursts into tears. And
Willow loses her shit. Like somebody said, your parents have just been murdered by an axe murderer. I mean, she loses her fucking mind. Willow does.
Yeah, and Angel gets a smile
Buffy's
on his
like, meh, you know.
Angel gets a smile on his face and kind of slips back into the shadows. And then we cut to Cordelia and Xander pulling up outside Buffy's house, and they tell them that they missed Giles at the police station, and they get worried about what he's going to do, and they go to his apartment. And on their way to his apartment, we see that he is at his apartment, and he's arming himself with quite possibly every single weapon he has in the place. And he leaves before the others get there, and we see that Angel had also left behind a charcoal drawing of the dead Jenny.
Like, how fucking sick, man.
Right.
Holy shit.
And so the four of them arrive at Giles's apartment, and they piece it all together and realize that Giles is heading to the factory to kill Angel. And of course, Xander's all gung ho on that plan. And
yeah, I got a clip of Xander being a massive fucking douchebag.
Go for it.
So Giles is gonna try to kill Angel then?
Well, it's about time somebody did.
Xander.
I'm sorry, but let's not forget that I hated Angel long before you guys jumped on the bandwagon. So I think I deserve a little something for not saying I told you so long before now. And if Giles wants to go after the fiend that murdered his girlfriend, I say faster, pussycat, kill, kill.
You're right.
Thank you.
There's only one thing wrong with Giles' little revenge scenario.
And what's that?
It's gonna get him killed.
So Xander's argument is, well, hey, I used to hate him back when there was no reason to hate him, and he was a good guy. So fuck you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
That's
just such a piece of shit.
That's exactly what his reasoning boils down to.
Yes.
And I thought the same thing when he said that. I was like, that is completely like that's childish logic. That's 5-year-old logic.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Exactly. It's just more evidence of Xander being a supreme piece of shit.
Right. So then we cut to the factory, and Spike is Angel's told Spike and Drusilla about what happened, and Spike's chiding Angel for not just killing Buffy. And he's telling him that all his little tricks and everything are going to do is cause a incredibly brassed off Slayer to seek retribution. And Drusilla reminds Spike that Jenny was trying to restore Angel's soul, and Spike's kind of like, so what? Big deal. I kind of prefer the old Buffy whipped Angelus to, this new crazy version.
It's not playing with a full sack.
And Angel, literally, as Angel finishes saying to Spike, "Don't worry, Roller Boy, I've got everything under control." There's a crash, and their fucking table,
a Molotov
cocktail comes through, and their table just bursts into flame.
And they're all like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah, and like, of course, they like jump back and try to get away from the fire, and Angel starts to run off, and is kind of gets to the base of this stairs up to a catwalk, and he stops, kind of jerks with surprise, and grabs a crossbow bolt and pulls it out of his shoulder. And we pan over to see Giles coming in from the other side of the room.
Oh, it's not Giles. It's fucking straight Ripper.
It's Ripper. And as he's walking past the table that's on fire, he has a baseball bat, and I'm it must be wrapped in like it must have some. I didn't really notice, but I'm presuming it's wrapped at the top, and he dips it into the flames, and um uh it catches on fire, and he starts beating the shit out of Angel with
He
this flaming
beats
baseball
the
bat.
fucking brakes off of this fucker with that. I mean, he is beating him. Like, it was a great scene, dude. Like, the emotion was there, man. He was
I
beating the fuck out of him.
I loved this scene.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh
It
yeah, I knew
was
you would. I knew you were like probably completely wrecked watching that.
I had I was full hard on for Ripper.
Because I know we all know you're a Giles fanatic, so I'm sure I knew you were
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, this was, you know, and we've talked about it before. Like we've seen hints and glimpses of it, like particularly with Ethan in those episodes. But I think this is the first time we've really seen like full out, like, for lack of a better term, balls to the wall Ripper,
Yeah.
like, and what he is potentially capable of. Not just like um with magics, because he's obviously pretty proficient in magics and whatnot, but just from a physical sense, what Giles is capable of.
Yeah.
When he's in the right mental state. Um, so Drew tries to go help Angel, and Spike grabs her and is like, "No, it's no fair joining the fight until he tags you in." And Giles kind of raises the torch up to go to for an overhead, slam on Angel, and Angel gets the upper hand on him and grabs him by the throat and lifts him up, and he's like, "All right, you've had your fun." And at that point, at right then, Buffy shows up, and um, she tells Angel, I think she says, "Now it's time for mine," or something like that.
Yeah. Now it's time for my fun.
And she attacks Angel, which of course frees Giles from his grasp. And um, Drew and Spike, they hit the sticks. They're gone. And um, uh, Buffy ends up chasing Angel up onto a catwalk, and she's laying it on him pretty good. And he is just like, he says, what does he say? Are you just gonna let your old man burn? And she looks down and sees Giles surrounded by the flames, and um, Angel kind of grabs her and pushes her over the railing as he makes his own escape from the factory. And she jumps down and grabs Giles and kind of carries him from the building and outside. And man, this is another great scene. He pushes her off of him and starts yelling at her, "Why did you come here? This wasn't your fight." And she just hauls off and fucking clocks him.
Houses him, dude.
And she starts yelling back at him, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" And he's, of course, on the ground from her hitting him. And, like I said, she's yelling at him, "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" And she immediately collapses on the ground next to him, and they embrace each other, and they're both crying. And she says to him, "You can't leave me. I can't do this alone." And we cut to later that night, and what's happening, Jeremy?
Well, Giles is returning to his apartment, and the stupid fucking Angel voiceover continues, and it says, "It hurts sometimes more than we can bear. If we could live without passion, maybe we'd know some kind of peace, but we would be hollow. Empty rooms, shuttered and dank." I'm like, none of this makes sense. This is all fucking gobbledygook. And so he's walking around his apartment being sad and stuff. And we cut to, it's a while later. I would assume several days later. And the voiceover continues, without passion, we'd be truly dead. And then we see Jenny's headstone, and Giles is laying flowers there, and Buffy's with him. And he says, in all his years as a watcher, he's buried too many people, but Jenny was the first that he actually loved. And Buffy says she's sorry that I couldn't kill him for her when I had the chance. And then a Buffy voiceover starts, and she says, I wasn't ready. And we see Willow walk into Miss Calendar's room, and she says that Principal Snyder asked her to fill in for Jenny till the new teacher comes, and she's just going to stick to the lesson plan that Miss Calendar left behind. And then we hear Buffy's voiceover continue that says, I can't hold on to the past anymore. Angel is gone. Nothing's going to ever bring him back. And when she says that, we see Willow set her things down on Miss Calendar's desk. And we see that floppy disk, and it falls between the two desks, and now appears to be the secret to restoring Angel's soul appears to now be lost and hidden. Will they find it? Tune in next time, ladies and gentlemen, because that's the end of the episode.
That is the end of the episode. I'm afraid for this, but Jeremy, why don't you tell me, how many dead high school computer science teachers do you give this episode?
1. I give it 1.
Wow.
Yeah, it's trash. The whole fucking episode's just hot fucking trash. There are like 2 great fucking emotional scenes, and then the rest is just liquid Taco Bell diarrhea. So let me take a second here. I want to read the entire thing. It's the entire piece put together is passion. It lies in all of us, sleeping, waiting. And though unwanted, unbidden, it will stir, open its jaws and howl. It speaks to us, guides us. Passion rules us all, and we obey. What other choice do we have? Passion is the source of our finest moments. The joy of love, the clarity of hatred, the ecstasy of grief. It hurts sometimes more than we can bear. If we could live without passion, maybe we'd know some kind of peace. But we would be hollow, empty rooms, shuttered and dank. Without passion, we'd be truly dead. It's fucking stupid. It's something Joss Whedon wrote while he was taking a poop. It's so dumb. It's like a certain ex-president's dumb fucking midnight poop tweets. It's just fucking dumb. It means nothing. It's fucking gobbledygook. It's fucking senior community college philosophy dude stuff. It's horseshit. The episode is horseshit. There's a couple of great. It's nothing but a peeping Tom fest. It doesn't even make Angel really that evil, other than killing Miss Calendar. The rest of it's just he's a creepy fuck. I mean, just a straight up sex offender, and it's shit. It's garbage. It shouldn't exist, and whoever wrote it should probably turn in their Writers Guild card and never write again. And that's the way I feel about it. James, how many utterly ridiculous episodes would you give this?
This is a 5.
Holy shit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am just going to play the outro now, and this episode is now over. Wow. Okay, go ahead.
There's nothing wrong with this episode. It's yeah, I'm sorry. There is nothing wrong with this episode.
Well, nothing to be sorry for. I mean, that's why we do the show. We each have our own takes.
It's full of, in my opinion, quality drama. They've spent months creating these characters that we care about and we love, and then they just dump so much on them, and I feel like everybody in this episode is outstanding, from SMG to Ash, Allison, just everybody is phenomenal in this episode. It all works phenomenal for me. Jenny's death is heartbreaking. Every time I watch this episode and we get to that part when Angel snaps her neck, I audibly gasp every time, no matter how many times I've seen it. It's breathtaking and it's visceral. And I disagree with you about Angel's passion monologue. Is it like, college philosophy type stuff? Yes, it is. But I love it. I love every word of it. This episode, I think it's really it's a turning point as a viewer in how you view Angel too. Like, I think up until this point, watching, even after he lost his soul, it was kind of like, oh, it's still Angel. You hadn't really seen him do anything, off the rails horrible. And this is it. Like, this is kind of like there's no coming back from this moment for that character. And yeah, it's a 5. So.
Okay, well, we saw this episode totally differently. And that makes me want to bring up too, because I forgot to bring it up in my rant, that's another thing that I hated. I thought Jenny's death was so cheap, so simple and quick and easy, and she's basically been a cast member since day one, and it's like, really, that's her swan song, really? Okay, well, I guess, whatever.
But I mean, look at it going forward. How many other characters that join the show and then are inevitably killed off? Like, they don't have grand, like, finale send-offs.
I think they all get a lot better death than she did.
Okay.
I'm
not going to name any specifically right now because
I don't know. The episode being called Passion and them constantly saying there was no passion in the what was the passion? A lot of hatred, but I don't know. To me, it ain't there. It just doesn't even exist. To you, it goes on your list of must absolute see.
Oh yeah.
5-star epic. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
100%. This is episode I'm showing to people after they've watched Surprise and Innocence.
Okay, well, I mean, to each their own. I just I would rather saw my leg off with thread and than ever have to watch this episode again. I've always hated it, always have. But anyway, what's next?
How about a little monsterology?
Oh, okay. Let's go. Let's have some of that.
There is none this week.
Right. That's what I was expecting.
Our body count this week is 4.
Okay.
It
should be 5 because I died a little on the inside watching this.
We've got
I will go so far as to say that I would rather watch a marathon of Bad Day in Building A than to ever have to see this episode one more time.
Sorry, no way. No way. Yeah, we had the unidentified woman killed by Angel in the bronze alleyway. The dog owner killed by Drusilla.
Oh, yeah. Off screen. Yeah.
And then Jenny.
Well, that's only 3.
That's only 3. 4 asterisks if you count Willow's fish. But there were 3 fish, so I guess
fish, yeah.
You're right, so I guess that's really 7.
Okay. And then me for dying on the inside.
Wow.
So 8.
A little behind the scenes. Maybe you'll like this better.
Okay.
So, that passion monologue,
Mm-hmm.
as given in the episode, it wasn't how it was originally written in the original script.
Mm.
The monologue was originally written as follows: Passion. It is born, and though uninvited, unwelcome, unwanted, like a cancer, it takes root. It festers. It bleeds. It scabs only to rupture and bleed anew. It grows. It thrives until it consumes. It lives, so it must die. Passion. It drives some to distraction, some to despair, some to vengeance. It drives some to murder and others to madness. Passion is the source of hope and the cause of despair. It is the source of life and the cause of death.
Okay, the problem with that whole blurb is the word passion should be replaced with the word love. Then it makes way more sense. The passion just has no part in any of this. But anyway, I digress.
So would you like to know what the dialogue was in the phone call scene?
The phone call scene. Oh, where Giles is calling to tell them
That
that Miss
Jenny's dead?
Calendar had a horrible, shitty death.
Yeah.
Yes.
Willow. So is it horrible? Buffy. It was too horrible. Phone rings. Hello? Giles. Buffy? Buffy. Giles, hey, we finished this. Jenny, Miss Calendar, she's been killed. What? It was Angel. Buffy drops the phone. Willow. Buffy, picking up the phone. Giles? Willow. Angel's killed Jenny. Willow. What? No. Oh no. Joyce. Willow. My God. Buffy, what's wrong? Has something happened? That was the dialogue.
Willow ate that scene up.
She did.
She lost
She
her
did.
shit. So.
On its original airing, this episode pulled an audience of 4.3 million households.
Damn, that's 4.3 million people who died a little on the inside.
I want you to look it up right now while we're talking about this. I believe this is a fan favorite episode. I want you to look
that up on whogivesafuck.com.
Here. I'll look it up while I finish this off. Our bronze band this week is Morcheba. Our music
that's right. We did have a bronze. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'd forgot. I was like, wait, we were in the bronze? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep. Our music this week includes Never an Easy Way, performed by Morcheba from the album Who Can You Trust, released on Discovery Records in 1996. O Suave Funcella from the opera La Boheme by Giacomo Puccini, released in 1896, as performed by tenor Jonathan Welch and soprano Luba Organazova, accompanied by the Czechoslovak Radio Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Will Humberg, released on Naxos Records in 1990. Angel Waits, composed by series composer Christoph Beck, and Remembering Jenny, composed by series composer Christoph Beck, with vocals from Anthony Stewart Head.
All right, then.
So,
what did you
Passion ranks as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The number 9 on fan favorite episodes.
Well, you know where it ranks for me? How many total episodes are there in this show? Because it's one less than that.
No goof 'em ups and oopsies this week.
Yeah, right. The whole fucking script. Anyway, so do you have any final thoughts on this episode, James?
Nope. Just that no one should listen to what you have to say. It's a great episode. If you've never watched the show, go watch it.
Fair, fair enough. I just think that it's hot trash. But anyway, this has been our shortest episode we have ever recorded.
Wow.
Yeah, ever. So, next week.
That's because it was a perfect episode, and
Yeah.
there was really not a lot to discuss.
Yeah, there just wasn't at all. It's best that we just leave it as it is because we clearly strongly disagree.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it up to the fans. You guys do what you want. James wants to marry it. I want to murder it. So, see where you guys land. Next week, we will be serving up season 2, episode 18, Killed by Death. No idea what that could be. That's really, really fucking obscure, But with all that being said, James, how can people tell us how right that I am about this episode?
Well, Jeremy, if people would like to tell you how wrong you are about this episode and how right I am about this episode, they could go to BuffyRevisited.com, where they will find links to our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube. And they can leave us comments in regards to how great this episode is and how wrong you are for disliking it on any of those mediums.
Now, in the real world, where can they go? No. Yeah. No, that's fair.
They could also email us at buffyrevisited@gmail.com, which there's also a link to that on our website. So,
alrighty then. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with all that being said,
before you sign off, I recommend going to our YouTube if you're listening to this episode to watch it so you can see Jeremy and I serve up each other dirty looks.
Yeah.
As we talk about this episode.
And you can see just how utterly disgusted I am by the very notion of having to hear that this was a 5 in James's eyes. But anyway, thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to seeing everyone next week. And with all that being said, I've been one of your hosts. I'm Jeremy.
I'm your other host, James.
Ta-ta.